Hey everyone, good evening, and thanks very much for coming out on the ultimate school night. Appreciate that. It's our second year that Brave went over to South by Southwest, so I think that actually gives us quite, the first year was quite sort of margarita laced and all the rest of it, and I think the, you know, it actually, once you get past the sort of tequila and everything else, it actually, you get to a really good perspective when you go back for your second year. And I think sort of going 2013 and 2014 were really pivotal years for technology. So as Nigel has touched on, this year was really different in complexion to last. I think the key thing, we touched on Robert Scoble. If you don't know this guy, look him up. He's like the king of the geeks. And when we saw him, he had 5 different kinds of wearable technology on, and I'm pretty sure every sort of Deep Space Nine box set you can possibly own. I think, you know, it can be, South by Southwest can be seen as kind of a geek fest. I think the important distinction that I definitely make is part of it's that, but I think the critical thing is this is really where global thought leaders go to debate new technology and innovation and actually say, can this become part of our culture or not? And I think increasingly, particularly this year, if the sense is if it could, then the really critical question there is if it should. And that really brings me on to my sort of theme. I actually think the sort of transformative truth, and back to Nigel's point, for the marketing comms industry, I think we've got to get to a stage where we get to better positive ideals about the future. Because I think right now there's a really conflicted idea about the future in people's heads. And I think partially that's because of the way that we just use tech in quite a willy-nilly way. So I'm going to illustrate that, I'm going to share with you one of the weirdest things that I saw at South by Southwest this year, which is, I'll just skip on. This is actually, and I think this is, you know, this is almost a literal illustration of the end of the technology internship. This is a company called Chaotic Moon Studios in Austin, and they decided it was a great idea to use a quad rotor, which is quite a nice little cool bit of technology, to attach a taser to, a bit like a rubbish Robocop movie, and then tase one of their interns. So if we just play the video, I'll let you make your own mind up about what you think about this.
Yes, I think it'd be really cool to kind of be at the forefront of some emerging technologies.
It's about to happen. It's about to get done.
Dead. No, he wasn't really dead, he lived. But I think, you know, this is really a perfect example of just because you could doesn't mean you should. It's real Jurassic Park territory where it's like, I love the fact it says it's awesome to be at the forefront of technology. It's like, yeah, how awesome is it when he was sort of crippled up at the end? But it's, you know, I think really we've got to, I'll pull out a couple of things here. One, never ever, sorry, I'll go forward again. I couldn't resist but pull these two out of the audience. So you've got the lady reporter and this other guy. And I just think this kind of represents where we are with technology. She's clearly horrified. And I mean, you know, just a quick show of hands. How many among you think that that was not okay in terms of attack? Okay, good. So I'm not presenting to a total bunch of psychopaths. That's great. And so she quite rightly looks like the face of sanity. Yeah? It's like, what's going on here? Where the guy in the background, she's like, yeah, get some. So I think, you know, there's a recent BBC study about technology freedom. And just building on what Nigel touched on, 67% of people said that they felt that the web and technology empowered them and freed them. But simultaneously, 53% felt that it was actually something they were really insecure about and that they were open to massive scrutiny because of technology. And I think this is getting to the fundamental truth of kind of what I'm getting at, is that we have this conflicted state for our industry where you have a divided audience and therefore a divided opportunity where half of them think it's great and half of them it scares the hell out of them. And so for me this year, you know, it really was a pivotal point where South by Southwest 13, we came back, dress and all, Alice in Wonderland, and it was a real sense of we'd gone through the looking glass or the Google glass. And there was just a sense in 2013 that it was going to change the world. You know, Google Glass had just come on stream. We had wearables, we had 3D printing. It was the first time people started talking about the Internet of Things, so this really big sort of connected ecosystem. And there was a real sense of just, you know, the world has changed and there's nothing that technology can't do. Our future's going to be amazing. And then this happened this year. And I think, you know, just there's a real sense of people tooling up for what they suddenly saw as an adversarial future. And the interesting stat here is that 1 week after the Snowden revelations, George Orwell's 1984, sales went up 7,000%. So genuinely, people went out and bought this book as an instruction manual for how to kind of survive. And I think the delicious irony there is we know that data because they bought it on Amazon. So, you know, again, it's a perfect illustration of this conflict between what's scary, but actually give me it through Amazon because that's a convenient way to purchase. So I think, you know, what we're getting at here is this kind of pivot in technology represents a challenge, and I think what deters people from fully embracing it is the ideas about the future that they have in their heads. And so for me, the transformative truth comes around, we've got to get to some ideal shared values as the first step in creating a future that's valued. And this is actually based on the work of quite a founding futurist called Fred Pollack, who you know, sort of said we've got to get to more positive images of the future if we're actually going to get to a stage where culture will fully embrace it to its full potential. And so for us, you know, I wanted to share with you, take off the tinfoil hat, and I wanted to get to the good stuff. What's the positive stuff coming out of South by Southwest? And I think for me, it's really the promise and the aspiration of superhuman experience. And there's lots of different things I'll talk into in this in terms of you know, sort of some different areas that deliver into this. But there's a brilliant lady who's a cultural anthropologist for Intel called Dr. Genevieve Bell. And she says about technology, we put technology on ourselves to kind of extend ourselves and help us flow through the world. And I think that's kind of, you know, that for me is a really nice feeling and a really nice image of the future that we can actually start to embrace. And I think underneath this, there are 3 things. So there's 3 things that I'll kind of emphasize to you that I think we need to look at in terms of delivering this. So just moving on one. So I think it's really about, when we bring it back to sort of people first and tech second, it's really about these 3 areas. So help me is about a genuine value exchange. And I suppose to Robert Scoble's point, it's about what utility can we bring to people's lives, and how can we make their lives easier, and sort of that value exchange of utility for privacy. Know me is about getting creative with that code, so personalizing delivery to them through sort of uniting art and science. And then prove me is about using tech to better behaviors. So it's really about start putting an interpretation layer on the data so you can tell people stories about their life and help them make better decisions. So I'll quickly just scoot through some examples into talking into these different areas in terms of help me, know me, and improve me. So first of all, and we've mentioned him already, he is the Uber geek, Robert Scoble. There's no app that he doesn't have, so the good thing is he's trialed them all for you. This is an app called TripIt, and this was coming into something that a guy from RGA was talking about, which is think about the intersection where you can actually add most value to people's lives. And what Scoble told was a story about this app that helped him win in the game of life, because it told him that the plane he was on was cancelled before it was even announced over the tannoy. So he got the last of 2 seats that were available on the next flight and avoided a night in a hotel purely down to this app. So he's evangelizing about it. So I think it's thinking about that genuine value exchange. And then just moving on to another example, I think also this was Christina Halverson from Brain Traffic, who spoke very interestingly about the Oreo mega tweet that went off halfway through the Super Bowl lights out. Do you guys all see this? Yeah. Okay. So I think it's what was really interesting here was she you know, accused marketing of being drunk on the Oreo effect, and I think a very interesting stat here is although this won every single creative award going, and you know went around the world in terms of our sort of marketing press, only 0.008% of Twitter engaged with this in terms of retweets or favorites and so on. And so what she was saying is don't get caught up too much in terms of opportunistic real-time marketing that just lurks waiting to kind of jump in and out of conversations. Her assertion was that we should be much more bottom-up, fully entrenched in the conversation and actually caring more about what your customers really want, even if the start of that conversation is you need to fix your shit. So it's kind of that was a really interesting aspect as well. And then just going into Know Me, I think that kind of sort of more insightful use of data, this is a really good example from Google's own Ben Malbon from the labs, where he was actually saying, you know, you've got to unite copy and code. So it's really thinking, people see coders and copywriters as kind of two separate creatures, but actually they're both creatives. They both want people to love their work. And so this was just a really lovely example for Burger King, where they took the insight that everyone hates pre-roll videos on YouTube. And so what they did was use the data of what people were searching for to actually tailor the pre-roll to whatever they were searching for. So they turned something that was potentially hated into something that was lovable. So play video, please.
YouTube ad. I hate these things. This guy's just trying to watch a graphic animal attack video, but no, I have to sit through an ad. Ugh, stupid, incredible deal. This guy's just trying to watch a screaming goat video, all black highlights, watch a music video, Jimmy Fallon clip, an Anchorman 2 trailer, North Korean babies play the guitar, but no, they have to sit through an ad.
So really charming, and you know, just sort of tip of the iceberg, I think, in terms of insightful use of code. I think a really quick one, contextual user experience is going to be massive. So as wearables explode, it's really thinking about, and I don't know if you find this in your businesses, we've got to think more about context and actually make things less complex in the sense that there's going to be potentially 171 million wearable devices by 2016. So this is going to explode really rapidly. I think the imperative for us is to get out of the mentality of just thinking responsive is a magic word. So if we make it ever-decreasing rectangles of experience, then that's going to do the job. I think what we need to get into is reactive design, where we actually start to look at different devices, think about what people want to do in that context, and maybe design for, you know, a much shorter attention span. So the CEO of Evernote was talking about this the other day, where he said he thinks that apps are going to actually go into the background a little bit, and the average session length of an app interaction might be 2 minutes. When we start talking about Fitbit or glancing at a certain piece of information, it might go down to 2 seconds. So that's obviously a massive challenge for us. And I think the thing to take out here is there's an opportunity for an augmented intelligence layer where you start to look at things like Google Now, for example. So have a play with that if you haven't already. But it's understanding what you're doing in real time, getting into your mindset and mission, and then delivering a message that gives you the most value in that context. And then finally, just moving into Prove Me, I think the key things here are around, you know, it really is starting to put an emotional layer and start to storytell with data. So with all this proliferation of data sets, we've got to start to put some interpretation on that to actually tell people stories about their life that help them make better decisions. So this is a lovely bit of kit that's just coming out. It's from Sense Studios in Paris called Mother, which in itself is really nice, and it's a hub that looks after you and your family. And the little tags are tags that you can attach to your kids or to toothbrushes or your trainers, and it actually creates an achievement league between kind of brushing teeth or you know, going out for a run or sleeping or things like that. But it actually tells stories so that people can get more value out of it, because it's not just increasing the noise, it's giving them a level of interpretation. And I think then in terms of the emotional layer, and to finish on a bit of a nice one, this was a brilliant talk by Jennifer Dunham of Frog Design, where she said that emotional intelligence is the biggest thing that we can actually start to aspire towards. So in terms of superhuman experience, this is a belt from Huggies that lets dads-to-be actually feel in real time their baby's kicking. So it's literally an extension of human experience. So we'll finish on a nice one. If you can just play video, thank you. great, thanks. So just very quickly, 3 key takeouts. I think we've got to move to, without being too preachy, we've got to move to a question of should, not could. I think we've got to get into a sense of shared ideal values to actually create a future that's valued. And I think most of all, we've got to get to a positive image of the future that we could get people to embrace. And that's 3 things: help me, know me, and improve me. And that's it. Thank you.